Okay, get this. Did you know there's an animal out there, a non-human mammal, who can keep a beat with, like, incredible precision?
Uh-huh.
Not just sort of, sway along, but actually sync up to a rhythm as reliably, maybe even more reliably, than a human doing the same thing.
It sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's absolutely true. And it's kind of turning our understanding of animal cognition, especially around rhythm and music, well, kind of on its head.
That's exactly what we're diving into today, this fascinating world of animal biomusicality, and we're really focusing on one specific amazing individual, Ronan, a California sea lion.
Right.
There's a new study about her performance that's really challenging some basic ideas about what animals can do.
Yeah, we're unpacking a scientific paper, just came out in Scientific Reports. It builds on, years of really groundbreaking work with Ronan at UC Santa Cruz.
So our goal in this deep dive, for
Yeah.
you listening, is to explore what makes Ronan's rhythm ability so special, how this latest research stacked her up against humans, and, what this incredible sea lion teaches us about learning, memory, intelligence, things like that. In the animal kingdom, it might actually make us think a bit differently about ourselves, too.
It's quite a story. I mean, it starts with a rescue and ends up, pretty much rewriting textbooks.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So Ronan's journey, where does it begin?
Right, so her story starts back in 2008. She was born in the wild, but her early life was really tough. She's stranded multiple times, apparently struggling with malnutrition.
Oh, wow. Multiple times.
Yeah. And after the third stranding, get this, there was this one memorable incident where she was actually spotted walking down Highway 1.
Wait. Down Highway 1, like on the actual road?
Yep, literally walking down the highway. I mean, can you even imagine seeing that?
No, yeah. Okay.
So because of these repeated strandings and, that kind of very unusual behavior, the regulatory agencies decided she couldn't be released back into the wild. Just wasn't safe for her.
Which I suppose turned out to be fortunate, both for science and for Ronan herself. It led her to a new home in 2010.
Exactly, at UC Santa Cruz's Pinniped lab.
Right, led by Colleen Reichmuth, the research scientist there. And Ronan became a permanent resident animal in their care.
And it's important to know, this lab, the Pinniped lab, they don't just focus on one thing. They use these really positive, cooperative training methods.
Meaning the animals choose to participate, right? It's not forced.
Exactly. They choose, and the lab studies all sorts of things about marine mammal behavior, physiology. Ronan's actually involved in a ton of studies. Learning, memory, sensory biology, how they dive.
Yeah.
She's not just the rhythm sea lion.
That's a really good point. That context matters. Because while she's famous now for her rhythm, she's kind of a multi-talented participant there.
For sure.
And her initial that really kicked off back in 2013, right? That came directly from this amazing rhythm ability.
Yeah. That's when the researchers first published that she could consistently bob her head to a beat. And not just one beat. She could adapt to different tempos, even unfamiliar music.
Which was huge at the time. That 2013 paper, I mean, it made massive waves because it directly challenged this major theory in biomusicality.
Right, the study of music and biology.
Yeah, the dominant idea back then, partly inspired by animals like Snowball the cockatoo.
Oh yeah, the dancing cockatoo. I remember those videos.
Exactly. So, inspired by vocal mimics like Snowball, the theory was that the ability to perceive rhythm, to move to a beat, was tightly linked to vocal learning.
The thinking being, if you can learn to imitate complex sounds, maybe you have the brain wiring needed to predict and move to a beat.
Precisely. But here's the catch, right? Sea lions. They're not known for complex vocal learning. Not like parrots or humans. They make sounds, sure, but not that kind of learned mimicry.
So Ronan, being able to keep a beat so well, she was this major outlier. She didn't fit neatly into that neat vocal learning box.
Exactly. Which naturally led to some skepticism after that first study came out. Some, prominent theorists in the field questioned it.
They wondered if her performance was really as precise, as consistent as, say, human beat keeping.
Right. Or maybe she was using some different, maybe less sophisticated biological mechanism compared to humans or those known vocal learners.
And that skepticism is basically what led to this brand new study we're talking about today.
Exactly that. The research team wanted to provide a really rigorous, direct comparison head-to-head. They aimed to quantify exactly how accurate and consistent Ronan's beat keeping was.
And then put her right up against human performance on a very similar task.
Yep. settle the question.
Okay, so how do they actually set that up? The comparison, I mean.
So they designed a study comparing Ronan's signature move, the head bobbing to the beat,
Uh-huh.
with the up and down arm movements of 10 undergraduate students from UC Santa Cruz. Both Ronan and the students were trying to synchronize their movement to a simple percussive metronome beat.
Okay, straightforward enough. And did they use different speeds?
They did. 3 different tempos, 112, 120, and 128 beats per minute. But here's a really crucial point.
What's that?
Ronan had not been previously trained or even exposed to the 112 and 128 BPM tempos.
Ah, okay, so they weren't just testing her on the one speed she knew really well.
Exactly. It wasn't just testing a highly rehearsed, maybe almost automatic behavior at that one tempo. They were testing her adaptability, too.
Got it. So what did they find when they crunched the numbers?
Well, this is where it gets genuinely remarkable. The new paper reports that Ronan's synchronization, how well she matched the beat. It wasn't just comparable to the human participants.
Uh-oh, I sense a but coming.
In some key measures, it was actually better.
Better. Better than the college students. How?
What really jumped out was her consistency. So while both Ronan and the humans could hit the beat pretty accurately on average, Ronan did it with significantly less variability, less wobble from one head bob to the next compared to the students' arm movements.
So she was like a steadier metronome herself.
Pretty much. She maintained a much steadier rhythm over time.
That's wild. Do they give, like, specific numbers on that precision? How close was she hitting it?
Oh, yeah, they do. At 120 BPM, which was her most practiced tempo, she was hitting the beat within an average window of just 15 milliseconds.
15 milliseconds. Okay, help me picture that. How fast is that?
Okay, well, think about blinking your eye. A human eye blink takes about, 150 milliseconds?
Right.
So her timing accuracy was within a tenth of that time. And her beat-to-beat variability, how much her timing shifted from one bob to the next, was also right around that same tiny 15 millisecond mark.
Wow. So her timing was only varying by about a tenth of an eye blink from beat to beat.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
incredibly precise. Peter Cook, the lead author, had some great ways of putting it. He said, she is incredibly precise with variability of only about a tenth of an eye blink from cycle to cycle.
That's a great visual.
And he also described it as basically hitting the rhythmic bullseye over and over and over again.
Okay, that paints a picture, hitting the bullseye. And didn't they also do some modeling work?
They did. They took the data from the 10 students and used it to model what the performance distribution might look like for a much larger group, like 10,000 theoretical humans doing the same task.
And where did Ronan fall in that theoretical crowd?
Based on that modeling, Ronan's super consistent, low variability performance, it placed her way up in the 99th percentile for beat-keeping reliability among that simulated human population.
Wow, top 1%.
Basically, yes, for
Inconsistent.
consistency.
So, okay, this new study, it lands pretty hard then. It provides really solid quantitative data that directly addresses that earlier skepticism.
Absolutely.
It shows her rhythmic ability isn't just, impressive for an animal. It's demonstrably highly precise, highly reliable. It stands up head to head with human performance on this kind of task.
Yeah, it really elevates her from being just this, interesting curiosity or anomaly to being recognized as a genuinely exceptional rhythmic performer by pretty much any standard.
Okay, so the precision is undeniable now. But how? How does she do this? What goes into developing that kind of skill? Because, sea lions aren't just born tapping their flippers, right?
Haha, no, they're not. And one of the most critical points the researchers always emphasize is the nature of their work with her. It's all cooperative.
Meaning her participation is completely voluntary.
Completely. She chooses to engage with the researchers. She actually signals when she's ready to start a task. And she's totally free to just disengage and head back to her pool anytime she feels like it.
No negative consequences, like she doesn't miss a meal or anything.
Nope, none at all. No deprivation, no punishment. It's built on positive reinforcement and her willingness to participate.
That cooperative approach feels really important. And, okay, you mentioned she's been at the lab over a decade. How much actual rhythm practice has she had?
This is maybe the most surprising part, given how good she is. Over that whole time, she's only participated in roughly 2,000 rhythm exercises total.
Okay.
And each one of those only lasts about 10 to 15 seconds. Just tiny bursts.
10 to 15 seconds, that's it.
That's it. And sometimes, literally years would pass between these short rhythm sessions because she'd be busy participating in other studies the lab was conducting.
Years. Wow. So Peter Cook's point about her not being overtrained.
Yeah, he stressed that. She definitely wasn't overtrained. He even estimated that her total exposure to rhythm since she arrived at the lab is, and I quote, probably dwarfed by what a typical one-year-old kid has heard.
That's staggering. I mean, think about the constant bath of music and rhythmic sound a human baby gets. Nursery rhymes, background music, parents talking.
Exactly. So her incredible skill isn't just the result of endless mind-numbing repetition. The researchers point to other factors, things like maturation, she's grown up in this environment, and her general experience with the lab's positive training methods over many years.
So it's more holistic learning.
Kind of. Colleen Reichmuth put it well. She said this isn't just a simple test of a motor skill. It reflects her cognitive behavior and her ability to remember and refine it over time.
And what about her motivation? Does she seem to enjoy it?
It really sounds like it. Reichmuth shared that Ronan genuinely wants to perform well. Getting up on the platform to do the task is her choice, and she seems to approach it like a game she knows how to win.
Okay.
And she clearly enjoys the fish rewards she gets for doing it successfully. They describe her as highly intelligent, exuberant, and importantly, her performance visibly improves with practice, just like ours does when we learn something new.
Like she's actively trying to get better at the game.
Seems that way. And she's also physically and mentally in her prime right now. She's 16 years old, about 170 pounds. The team notes she's grown up and in her prime for a female sea lion in managed care. So her maturity, both cognitive and physical, likely plays a big role in this refined ability we're seeing now.
Okay, so we have this rescue sea lion, not known for vocal learning, with relatively little specific practice, performing rhythm tasks with human-level, even superhuman-level, consistency. What's the bigger picture here? What's the ripple effect of Ronan's work in the science world?
Oh, it's had a major impact, especially in comparative cognition. That's the field studying how thinking differs and is similar across species. Ronan's become this, central case study, almost iconic, really, in research on rhythm perception across the animal kingdom.
Because her abilities, first hinted at in 2013 and now really solidly confirmed with this precision data, they directly challenge those older ideas, right?
Yeah.
About which species should be good at rhythm.
Exactly. They challenge the idea that complex rhythm processing is strictly tied to vocal learning. It really throws open the doors to investigate these cognitive capacities in species we might have previously overlooked or assumed weren't capable.
We thought maybe it was limited to humans, some birds.
Pretty much. But Ronan forces us to reconsider. And that original 2013 paper, it wasn't just, an interesting finding that sat there. It acted as a catalyst.
Oh.
It explicitly inspired researchers to start looking for similar rhythmic abilities in a whole bunch of other species. Primates, elephants, different kinds of birds, even influencing how we design studies for rhythm perception in humans. It spurred a lot of follow-up work.
That's fascinating. It really makes you wonder how much potential is just out there, untapped or unnoticed.
Totally. And Peter Cook mentioned he gets asked this question all the time, and I bet some listeners are thinking it too.
Let me guess. Why don't our dogs dance?
Bingo. Our dogs hear music, they hear rhythms constantly, but you don't usually see Fido bopping his head perfectly in time to the radio.
Right. So why not?
Well, Cook's response kind of flips the question, and it really gets to the core of what Ronan's work teaches us. He asks back, how many people are actually trying to explicitly train their dog to move rhythmically to a beat?
Probably zero.
Exactly. How many are providing clear, precise, consistent feedback on the dog's timing relative to a beat? Almost nobody.
Okay, good point.
So his argument is, you can't really say dogs can't do it until you've actually tried to systematically teach them and test them. You'd need to give them lots of opportunities, use targeted training, provide that really specific feedback.
Like they did with Ronan, but maybe adapted for a dog.
Right. And he actually speculated that if you took a highly trainable dog breed, like, say, a border collie, and gave them enough time and that kind of precise practice and feedback, he said he'd be very surprised if you couldn't get them to achieve results similar to Ronan's.
Huh. Maybe someone should try that study.
Maybe. But it highlights the deeper point here, right? This research, it isn't really about teaching animals cool tricks for YouTube.
No, it's more fundamental.
Much deeper. It's tackling fundamental scientific questions about the evolution of cognition. Are there universal principles for how different brains recognize patterns? How do different species process sound and time? It's about understanding the diversity of minds.
And the conditions needed to see those abilities.
Exactly. Cook's final thought on this new study really summed it up. He said Ronan's performance highlights the importance of experience, maturity, and really fine-grained training in a controlled laboratory setting to assess these questions. Sometimes you have to create the specific conditions to let the potential show itself.
So, okay, bringing it back to the listener. Why does a sea lion keeping a beat matter to you?
Well, I think first, it just significantly expands our view of what intelligence and learning potential look like. It shows us that these remarkable cognitive abilities can pop up in really unexpected places.
Like, a rescued sea lion who had a rough start in life.
Yeah. And it directly challenges those assumptions we might have had about which animals are capable of complex cognitive tasks we maybe once thought were reserved just for humans, or perhaps a few select birds known for mimicry.
It definitely broadens the field.
And maybe the most important takeaway is how powerfully it illustrates the impact of the right kind of experience. Specific, targeted training, a cooperative environment. It shows that potential might be hidden or latent until the conditions are just right to nurture it and reveal it.
Which suggests maybe our current understanding of animal intelligence is limited by how we're currently looking for it or the opportunities we're providing.
Could be. It really opens up the imagination about what else might be out there in the animal kingdom, what other capacities are just waiting for the right circumstances to be discovered.
It's pretty mind-bending stuff, actually.
So wrapping this up, the core takeaway from our deep dive today is pretty clear. Ronan the sea lion isn't just, vaguely grooving to music.
No way.
She's performing with a precision and a consistency in keeping a beat that genuinely rivals and in some ways even surpasses human performance in the specific kind of task.
And this isn't just a fun animal story, right? It's hard data that fundamentally challenges those long-held scientific ideas about which animals have complex rhythmic abilities and, crucially, why they might have them.
It shakes things up.
Definitely. And that leaves us, and you listening, with a really interesting thought to chew on. Given how important that targeted, specific training and experience clearly was for Ronan, and yet remembering how little total rhythmic exposure she actually had compared to, say, a human kid just growing up surrounded by sounds and music.
Right. That comparison is key.
It makes you wonder what other cognitive capacities might be lying dormant out there, just underestimated in various animal species, simply because we haven't stumbled upon the right way to ask the question, or provided the specific environment and training need to unlock them.
Yeah. What does Ronan's story really suggest about the true, maybe untapped potential for learning and intelligence across the animal kingdom? If, and it's a big if, the right conditions are met, it definitely makes you rethink the boundaries of what's possible.